Hello, good evening, and welcome to Making Waves, the very first virtual concert from London Oriana Choir. My name is Dominic Ellis-Peckham, and I am honoured to be the musical director of this wonderful organisation and have been since 2013. Thank you for joining us, and if you are enjoying things this evening, then please do share the URL and share this broadcast with as many people as possible. Now, of course, the last few months for so many people around the world has been unbelievably challenging and incredibly difficult. One of the sectors that's been affected is the performing arts and creative sector. Orchestras, choirs, theatres and all kinds of performers have been unable to do what they love most, which is to creatively express themselves, perform and work together. Concerts, recordings, tours and of course rehearsals have not been possible for any kind of ensemble, and that goes for London Oriana Choir too. But that hasn't stopped us, and like so many other choirs, we have been meeting on Zoom every Wednesday as we would do in a normal rehearsal. We've been sharing clips of recitals, we've had wonderful singing lessons, wonderful masterclasses and workshops, and we've been rehearsing for some very, very special virtual recordings. Tonight is a very special evening because we're going to be sharing some of our favourite clips from concerts over the past few years from across different performances and different kinds of repertoire. But this is also going to be marking the world premiere of Waves by Anna Disley-Simpson. She is our current composer in residence as part of 515, our Women's Composer Initiative. So we're really looking forward to sharing that with you later on this evening. Also tonight, there's interviews and there's special guests coming on board to show their support for this first ever virtual concert by London Oriana Choir. But let's get to the music. And the first piece this evening is O Virtus Sapientiae, a melody originally by Hildegard von Bingen. This is arranged by Cheryl Lynn Helm, taken from a performance at the Cutty's Ark in Greenwich a few years ago. I hope you enjoy.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Felicia Sandler, and I am a composer and the arranger of the chant by Hildegard of Bingen, Laus Trinitati, which you will hear momentarily sung expertly by the London Oriana Choir. For those of you unfamiliar with Hildegard, she was a 12th century woman of extraordinary power, an abbess and composer, but also physician, scientist, philosopher, painter, visionary. Her chant is a celebration of the Trinity, a mystery that has always appealed to me, this notion that the divine is somehow not just one, but three in one, a community of love at the center of all things. And we, in reverberation across the globe, are inextricably and mysteriously linked to one another. I make this offering gratefully, adding my voice to Hildegard's in a song of praise to divine community. Thank you.
I absolutely adore this choir. The opportunities that we get, the places that we sing, and most of all, the choir are my family in London.
I think there's no other choir that can one day be singing in the Vatican, the next day be singing with Madonna at Eurovision.
I was really kind of enthused by the idea of singing lessons and going away and doing multiple things.
Chance to sing so many amazing things in great places, meet fantastic friends. I even met my husband in the choir, which is a great bonus.
They're probably one of the best choirs in London and the UK.
I love being surrounded by people who are interested in developing their musical abilities and skills and techniques.
Because being from a different country, it's also a very good cultural experience. I actually understand what the musical culture in London is like.
On a Wednesday afternoon, I often will think, maybe I'm too tired to go to rehearsal, but I go anyway and I never regret it because I come back really refreshed.
They put so much energy, so much thought, and are so effective in creating these incredible events.
There's a kind of social support and emotional support. I've made friends that I've kind of had 20-something years now.
A good standard and fun to be in and sort of fun to sing, but also somewhere to make friends.
It has really extended our range, made us more confident, and I love singing with them.
Oh, I love the choir. I really love the choir.
Hello everyone, it's Eleanor Daley here, and I bring you greetings from Canada. I would first of all like to thank Dominic and the London Oriana Choir for singing my setting of Cette Nuit Cécile. Just a little bit of background. I believe the first setting I ever heard of this glorious text was William Walton's setting of same words when I was in university many moons ago, and I was utterly smitten with the words. When I became the director of music at Fairlawn Avenue United Church here in Toronto in 1982, I started to dabble a bit in composition. Mostly I had a choir to, sing the music, and they had to sing it, so it was great. Cette Nuit Cécile was written in, I believe, the early 90s, and when it was published, I dedicated it to my brother Jim and his wife Gail, who had recently gotten married. I would say thank you once again for singing my piece, and I am really looking forward to hearing the performance. I hope you will all be singing together again, and sooner rather than later, God willing. Best wishes to you all, and stay safe and well. Bye.
I hope you are enjoying your evening with us so far. Now, there are some fantastic people who work behind the scenes with London Oriana Choir, and we are so grateful to them for all that they do to keep us going, to help us prepare for concerts and to develop ourselves in our singing and also manage this incredible organisation. From the directors to the librarians, the treasurers, even the people who are in charge of the all-important tea and coffee rotas. We're particularly grateful to our artistic staff, our two singing teachers in residence, Amy Presswood and Susan Young, the fantastic associate conductor, Nicholas Chalmers. But there is no one who I rely on more from week to week than David Smith, our long-term resident accompanist. David is an accomplished coach, repetiteur, pianist and accompanist, and we are so grateful for all he does in our rehearsals to get us to all of our performances. During these difficult times, we've missed him, we haven't been able to interact with him, and we're certain that David has found it as difficult as all artists have when they haven't been able to work as they would normally do. So we're delighted that we have invited David to perform for us and for you this evening. I hope you enjoy this short recital by the composer Fanny Mendelssohn of her Notturno in G minor.
I'm Tara Mack. I sing soprano in the London Oriana Choir, and I am the composer of Inlak Esh. Inlak Esh is a Mayan phrase meaning roughly, you are another myself. The text of the piece comes from a much longer poem written in the 1960s in Spanish and English by Luis Valdés. The poem links Mayan and Aztec philosophies with the liberation struggles of that period. About 10 years ago, Inlak Esh became a symbol of a fight to save a high school program teaching history and literature from indigenous perspectives from being abolished. A friend of mine, a literature teacher in that program, recited Inlak Esh with his students at the beginning of every class, which became a kind of class ritual. And the idea of ritual is what inspired the chant that forms the foundation of this piece. The virtual performance of Inlak Esh you are about to watch is really the opening section of a longer work. I only started composing last year, so I'm really honored that Inlak Esh is having its world premiere in this concert, particularly now. The poem says, if I love and respect you, I love and respect myself. In a moment when we are struggling to find the spirit of empathy we need to fight off a global pandemic, and when, as Black people, we're fighting for love and respect for our community, this poem feels particularly relevant. I want to thank everyone who helped make this virtual choir project happen, and thank you for listening.
Tú eres mi otro yo, si te hago daño a ti, me hago daño a mí mismo. Si te amo y respeto, me amo y respeto yo. Inlak Esh. Tú eres mi otro yo, si te hago daño a mí mismo.
If I do harm to you,
y respeto,
I do harm to myself. If I love and respect you, I love and respect myself.
You are my enemy. If I do harm to myself, if I love and respect you, you are my enemy. If I do harm to you, I do harm myself. If I love and respect you, I love and respect myself. You are my enemy. If I do harm to myself, if I love and respect you, si te amo y respeto, me amo y respeto yo. Inlak Esh.
I think it's a brilliant idea to have this virtual concert at a time when the arts in general are in real danger of just simply disappearing altogether. And of course, choral music, singing together in close quarters, has been severely impacted by this pandemic. So it's a delight to know that the London Oriana Choir will be singing my Regina Caeli, and in my setting of these beautiful words addressed to the Virgin Mary, there are dramatic changes of mood and texture, each of the Alleluias represented by strong chords followed by faster moving passages. I do hope you enjoy it.
Regina Caeli.
I'm Amy Pressford and I'm one of the singing teachers at London Oriana Choir. I've been really enjoying adapting our singing lessons to go online, and I've also been running some musicianship and music theory classes online, which has been very enjoyable, but I really am looking forward to seeing everyone in real life again soon. This next item is by composer Kerry Andrew and it's called All Things Are Quite Silent.
Lovely
That was All Things Are Quite Silent by the incomparable Kerry Andrew. We love performing her music, and right at the start of the 515 initiative, Kerry was involved in one of our workshops with young female composers, teaching them how to capture sounds and create melodies, and of course score them in a variety of different ways. So we're so grateful for all the work and support that we have from the lovely Kerry Andrew. Now, it's the big moment, everyone. Our current composer in residence is Anna Disley-Simpson, and she had the second commission performed on the 13th of March, which was the very final concert I did at all, and it was the final concert of the choir before we went into lockdown. What should have happened next is that we would have had one final commission from her to complete her tenure. That is obviously on hold, but something very special has happened as a result of lockdown, and we're going to tell you all about it now. I'm delighted to welcome Anna Disley-Simpson for a very special Zoom interview. Hello, Anna.
Hello, nice to see you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I know you're ridiculously busy, so I really, really appreciate this time. We missed you. It's been very weird. The last time we saw you was at that concert and that second world premiere for you. How was that for you?
Yeah, that was momentous for me too. That was my last thing, my last venture into London before lockdown and everything. So that was a really, really special concert, and I was really pleased with the outcome. I was obviously initially daunted by working with the orchestra as well as you guys, but it was just dreamy. Loved it.
Well, we absolutely loved it, and we were so pleased that you were there and that you enjoyed it as well. It's always a mixture of nerves and enjoyment when you're performing a world premiere like that. So what's it like being a composer in residence?
I have loved it. I mean, particularly with you guys. I've never worked with an ensemble that's been so just up for doing everything that I've written and been really not just respectful, but actually actively enjoying the work that I've been making, and that really comes across, and it makes it such a treat to come in and work with you guys, and that's really what I've been missing in lockdown is working with you guys in person. It's such a big part of it.
It is. It's a really big part of it, and of course, you know, we love, as you say, coming into the rehearsal process and kind of developing the pieces as they go on, which is something we find so such an honour, really, as a performing group. So we hope that it'll be not too long until we see you in person again. Your life as a composer, your career as a composer so far, where did it all begin?
Tricky. So I've always been somewhat in the classical world. I learned piano for a while and have always sung forever. Singing was a massive thing from when I was about 5 or 6. But it wasn't really until later that I sort of delved more into kind of more contemporary classical music. What was sort of more formative really was a lot of pop music, and it still is a massive part of my influence is that kind of visceral enjoyment from pop music, whereas the sort of contemporary stuff, the contemporary classical stuff was more, I always approached it from a more academic point of view, I suppose. So those two worlds really have always fed into what I do, and I started studying it when I was 16 at music school, and then went on to the RNCM for my degree, which was amazing as well.
Well, I mean, we absolutely love your style. When you applied to be our 4th year composer in residence, we just kind of fell for your style, and we've seen that develop. And you know, I think we're cut from the same cloth, you and me, in that we have a very wide variety of music loves, and you know, can celebrate Stevie Wonder and Schubert in the same breath. So that's wonderful. And in terms of the equality and the opportunities, obviously 515 has a message and has a real plan behind it, but we're delighted that we're one of now hundreds and hundreds of initiatives to try and make this inequality a thing of the past, so you can literally have all the opportunities that anyone else would do, regardless of gender or anything. Do you think there's a shift in terms of that inequality?
Yeah, for sure. Even in my lifetime and relatively kind of short career so far. When I was starting out at 16, it was really rare to see anything for composers full stop. And on top of that, there just wasn't a lot of visibility of other women composers. And it wasn't really until I started seeing figures like Kerry Andrew and Anna Meredith and Emily Hall, and those composers started to come into my consciousness. And it was only really then that I thought, oh, this is something that I can actually do as more than a hobby, and as more as a kind of side project. People are actually composers that look like me, which is really cool.
Oh, that's great. And I hope, we all hope, that in addition to this initiative not being needed, that you are the inspiration and the subconscious presence for so many other composers, regardless of their age, I guess. But I hope, I'm pretty sure that you will be. So Anna, tell us what's up for you next. What you have hopefully on the horizon if the world returns to some kind of normal.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to kind of expand my ventures into different types of vocal music. So I've done a lot of choral music recently, and I'm really hoping to extend that into other forms such as opera and working more with electronics. And opera in particular is a really interesting one because it's obviously so multimedia, and also trying to plan for that sort of thing in a post-lockdown world, and to think of the scale and just logistics of that has been really interesting. So
well, I look forward to seeing what happens next. And on the subject of multimedia and the restrictions we're under, we came up with a plan together, didn't we? The choir and yourself, to actually, I suppose, archive and signify what we've been going through in lockdown, and have commissioned you to write an extra piece for us. So I suppose the initiative is now called 516. Tell us about this piece.
It's just as catchy. Yeah, so for this piece, a big thing with music that I write, especially vocal music, is thinking about the acoustic that it's going to be performed in. And obviously in this scenario, there wasn't really an acoustic to work with because it was being recorded remotely. So that really got me thinking for quite a while before I started composing. And I came up with this idea of sound waves and the kind of gesture of a wave in general, whether that moves through the air via sound or through water, or whether it's more kind of conceptual. Maybe it's an idea that starts really small and then gets spread across a country or the globe. Yeah, so that sort of is where it came from, and how that kind of manifested in the piece, I guess, mainly is this idea of something starting from something small, and having a kind of ripple effect across matter, essentially, and then becoming something really impactful. So that sense of build and layering is something that I really explored with this piece. Yeah.
Well, it's been such an unforgettable thing to do, to ask you to write at speed an extra commission, a lockdown commission, to be recorded individually in lockdown. And we're so grateful to you for your editing and to your wonderful team who've been part of making this happen. I've heard the final version, and I'm absolutely delighted that we're about to share with you the world premiere of this piece. And as you say, all those ideas of waves and starting from something small and developing is very much, I think, embodied in the piece, and it's an instant earworm. We utterly love it. It's been great to record individually and to send in, and this is the very first time we would have heard it, and the very first time the world would have heard it. So we're very, very excited for this world premiere. Anna, why don't you introduce it?
Oh, thanks. So this is Waves, written in 2020, recorded and written and edited in lockdown.
So there you have it. That was the world premiere of Waves, and we are so grateful to everyone involved in editing it and making the video, and of course to our current composer in residence, Anna Disley-Simpson, for being commissioned to write probably the world's first ever piece in lockdown. It really was a joy for us to rehearse and record, and we watched it with you for the very first time this evening. The final piece tonight is Butterfly by the Finnish composer Mia Makaroff. Lots of fun, which is exactly what London Oriana Choir is all about. We have been so grateful that you've supported and watched us this evening, and we hope to perform for you soon in person before too long. So from all of us here at London Oriana Choir, thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.